Hello, welcome once again to Living and Active. I thought, maybe for a change of pace, I would do something crazy and actually do a Living and Active video. Not a Living and Active live video, not a Rolling Towards Eternity video, not a Mottle's New Machine video. Just Living and Active. A look into the things that I do, that I've come up with, adaptations or whatever, things to make whatever I can eke out of a daily existence to work best for me. So obviously I have a lot of content here on the channel already about work that I do with sewing machines and making things and sewing things or whatever. But I figured today I would dedicate a little bit of time to showing some of the things that are useful for allowing all that to happen. And the reason why the camera is focused on the uh, the coffee pot, my shop pot, because I do have a percolator that I normally use for everyday coffee. Um, but every once in a while, I would like a cup of uh, just coffee right here, being kept warm or whatever, uh, just for the sake of having fresh coffee in the workroom, so I don't have to go back and forth all over the apartment for it. So my basic setup is um, this is combination display and store shelves. This is my clock. I like to have something that ticks in the room. I don't know if you're seeing it. I like to have something that ticks in the room, just to help with the tinnitus, however you say it. Wait for the picture to adjust here. There's the clock again, in case. It's a very lovely scene. A couple bluebirds sitting on a nest. Very gentle tick-tock. There's my Russian language keyboard tucked over there, Russian and Ukrainian language. That's a Bel Air 600. That is actually one of the machines that Japan was allowed to use by the Reconstruction deal made with the United States after a couple very nasty events happened to close out World War II. They were actually given license to, everyone is familiar with the concept of cheap Japanese knockoffs. This is pretty much when it started, was with sewing machines and manufacturing processes of building these things. They were allowed to pattern a lot of their things after American, very popular American brands and models, and so they did. So there's that badge says that it's a post World War II industrial thing for Japan. This here is a toy. I forget the brand of it, but it's just, I mean, it works. It's a simple chain stitch toy sewing machine, but it is basically a toy. That's World War II era, if not before. That is not a toy. That's an actual sewing machine. So you can see it right there. That is a chain stitch Singer 20. I'm reaching up as far as my arm will reach, which is not very far, and it's causing a lot of problems, so I can't do this for very, very long. But yeah, so that's that's a machine, the small one. That's a machine. Well, the big one's a machine too, but the little thing right there is a machine. That is a toy. But I have my various solvents, my canned air machines that I have no reasonable expectation of being able to find replacement parts for or being able to get to anytime soon. So I had friends help me put them up there. Obviously, you can tell the angle by which I'm holding the camera. That's not something that I reach ordinarily. Those I can kind of sort of lean forward, get myself in a chair and use my fingertips to sort of knock them down towards me. But my working stock is here, is like my parts, big pile of jumbled up random whatever. A radio I don't listen to. Another miniature sewing machine called the Tiny Tailor. This is also a Singer. My bench grinder. One of my bench grinders. That one has a divot in the middle of the stone, so I use that for rounding edges on things because that makes sense. And then in my bedroom on my other work table that I'm trying to establish, I actually have a smooth-faced clamp-on bench grinder, just like a hand crank, obviously. Try to maximize what I can do with my two half a hands. There's my wonderful 1950s Eskimo desktop fan. I would turn it on because it is a little warm here in the workroom right now, but it is loud. It is not the gentle thing they show in the YouTube ambiance videos. This thing is smoking. It's not smoking, but I mean it's fast, it's loud. It's unapologetically analog. Here's some of my light reading materials to include the correspondence courses that I picked up for various trades and specialties and applied math and stuff like that. There's a stack of spoke wheels ready for hand cranks on a few of the machines that I have in mind to fix. And there's my dead wall light curtain. Obviously thread, blue colors. And then I've shown this thing a couple times already in the last couple days, Singer 404. But this right here is this is the land of opportunity right here. This is the surface that lets me actually get all of this stuff done. And I'll explain that a little bit more in a second. But first, I'm going to open up the shop. I usually don't have the big light on when I do this because of headaches or whatever, but it's for the sake of the people that like to see what they're looking at in videos that I do this. So here we go. Flip this back around. Get this set back up maybe. Kind of, sort of. Excuse the cinematography. There we go. You're at an angle, but it sort of works, perhaps. Maybe this way. No, not that way. This way. Sorry. Oh, I suppose that would have to be good enough. So, this nice thing here. This is a Singer 5-in-1. Again, this video, no content on this channel is sponsored, promoted, whatever. Nobody pays me for anything. This is a Singer 5-in-1 coffee and tea brewing machine. The 5-in-1 are hot coffee, hot tea, grinder, which I'm going to demonstrate here in a second, iced coffee, and iced tea. I'm not quite sure how something like this makes iced anything, but whatever. I don't know. But the way I have it set up is because there's only one outlet. There is only one outlet in this room, and I have a lot of things to run on it. I've got the 404 plugged into the bottom plug of the outlet. The top plug of the outlet I have running to this power strip here that you can't see because you're not angled correctly because I didn't set you up right. But there's a power strip here, and the coffee pot and the light, which has its own little plug-in in the base of it. So if I wanted to, I could plug the fan directly into the light without having to stretch the cord across. So yeah, so what I want to do is turn on the power strip, which is just pushing the little toggle. The light comes on, as you can see. This coffee machine, I'm going to have to get kind of interesting with my positioning here. Undo the seat belt, scoot up a bit in the chair so I can reach. But so you flip up the top here. There's this little arm that pours the water in over the coffee grounds when they're ground up. This lid comes off. And then I have in here a bag of whole beans. Just because I figured the whole beans would keep a little bit better than ground coffee in this environment. I am Gen X. I have absolute faith that I have some sort of immune system just from the way that I survived from my childhood, teenage years, etc. So there's not too much zero contaminant, perfectly sterile anything you're going to see anywhere in the shop. But I've got my little measuring cup. Put it about half full of beans. Put them in there. I might actually add a little bit more. I estimate everything because specificity is my enemy. A few more beans into the cup. Okay. Cup goes back in the bag. Cup goes back in the bag. Bag of beans goes back in the bag. Bag goes right here. You probably can't see half what I'm doing because of the camera angle, but whatever. So open my bottle of water like a toddler. Get it pinched into my body to help me do the things. Remember that I have to open up this lid. I'm doing everything all out of order. That goes back on. This goes back over. This gets shut. There we go. Now we're cooking with peanut oil. That lid comes off. Water goes in. There's a line that actually says hot with the number 5. I think that's supposed to denote 5 cups. That's about what this makes. Open up the second bottle of water like a toddler. Because leaning is dangerous. I've got to have this little wrap around work surface area thing going on. Because if I need to lean for anything in this corner, I got to have something to fall into or I'm not going to make it. Well, I mean, I'll make it forward, but I probably won't be in the chair at the end of it. I'll probably be bleeding from somewhere and in pain that I wasn't planning for the day. Lid goes back on. So this has a cool thing where I can set it to just do, it's like if I put ground coffee in here, I could just do a regular drip and it would do just like a regular coffee maker. But I didn't put grinds in there, put beans in there, so now I have options. This top line is grind. This bottom line is brew. And if you choose one, you're choosing the other. So you can have a fine grind that makes a very strong brew, a medium grind that makes a regular brew, or a coarse grind that makes a mild brew. I like coffee because it's coffee, so I'm going to crank it all the way over. By the way, this is going to get loud, but I'm going to let you listen to the process of how awesome it is to have things that actually make noise inside of culture that seems to want everything to be as quiet and as sterile and as non-confrontational, I guess, as possible. So here we go. My obnoxiously present Singer brand coffee. It had to be Singer brand because it's in my the sewing machine room. So here we go. Oh, the one thing I don't have plugged in is my actual coffee pot. So hang on. Let me turn it back off. Such a problem. I'd unplugged it to take care of something else, and I forgot to plug it back in. Because all of the machines that I test and everything, the serger, everything that I use on these benches, it gets plugged into this strip, and so I have to pick and choose what I use. But now the little light's on. I don't know if you can see it. The little light's on right there, which tells me that it actually has power now. So now I'm going to turn the dial. And then set strong. So then there's a button down here that says start drip. And I push that. And then just like that, once it cycles through the grinding, it takes itself over to drip. And then the heat plate kicks on, and then the water goes in through the thing, and then the coffee comes out back to the other side and down into the pot. Just in case you don't know how coffee makers work. So while that's brewing, I'm going to bring you back over here to the secondary shot, maybe, if I did this right, in which you can see exactly nothing of what I'm trying to show you. So what I use for supports when I'm shooting these videos are little miniature tackle boxes or toolboxes or sewing boxes or whatever kind of boxes you want to call them, with these little miniature correspondence course booklets on top so that the camera sits kind of sort of even. Because you have all the terrain features of these boxes, like the little cutouts for handles or whatever. So now I'm going to actually try to get this to where you can see what I want to show you. Usually I have to brace up the back edge of the camera mount to get any kind of downward pointing let me see. A wedge. A wedge should be a great thing. Can't use that. Also, this is kind of a behind the scenes look at what goes into setting up some of these shots, because I don't have the room for my wheelchair and a tripod in here. So I kind of artificially create various vantage points that may or may not. There we go. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go this way. No, I want to go. I want to not mess up the shot. That's just going to have to be good enough. Oh yeah, seatbelt. I should do that before I fall out of the chair. Okay, so now that I'm not using this particular sewing box as a camera mount, I can put it back where it goes. There's a box underneath this table that is full of fabric, and I use it as supplemental storage because I can't get my feet under there really anyway. I mean, I could get closer if the box wasn't in there, but it works. So now you can see I'll show you what this thing is in a little bit and how I use it. But what I have here is on my workstation, I have like one of those non-slip drawer liner mat things that you get at like the dollar store and anywhere else. I have that on top of the table, and then I have a piece of upholstery fabric, a sample that I've serged the edges on to keep it from fraying. That goes on top of the non-skid pad, and it works. It doesn't slide. And then on top of that, because I don't want to get my nice new, it's not new, I wash it regularly, but because I don't want to necessarily get a whole bunch of nasty stains that won't come out of my cool upholstery fabric thing, I always get a section of cardboard, cured corrugated, pretty dense stuff that comes in like shipping containers, whatever. And I'll cut out a section for two reasons. One, because it's absorbent, and that's important when you deal with things like machine oils or whatever, and penetrating oils and stuff like that. And secondly, is it absorbs impacts. So if I drop something, it's less likely to bounce off the top of the table and go somewhere where I have to go looking for it. Like if I'm working on mounting one of these or something and I fumble it, it's more likely to slow down when it makes contact with the thick cardboard, and that'll give me a chance to at least throw my hands up to keep it from going anywhere else. Obviously this would just roll, but any other kind of like screws or whatever, I have much greater success keeping them up at elevation with the cardboard in place than I do without it. So now that I have my layers set up for my workstation, I have a couple cool things I've used. All my bench tools, by the way, are they're hand operated, which is weird to say for an incomplete quad, but they are, because I just like hand operated analog stuff. So here's my jeweler's vise. It's a tiny little thing, but it is an actual vise. As you can see, I turn the thing and it does the thing vices do. I'm going the wrong way. I'm trying to show you the jaw's opening. You see, the jaws are opening. But the side benefit of these being clamp on is that I can actually use these as clamps to hold my surface layers in place. And because the cardboard is fairly thick, as the vise gets tensioned down, it actually sinks into the cardboard a little bit and improves the bite, which means it's much less likely to go anywhere. So I don't want to start cracking the wood the tabletop is made of. So I put my little space keeper button back in here. Lock that down. Keep the handle off to this side so it's not inside my actual work area. And then this thing, I don't know if you've ever seen one of these. This is a reproduction from the 80s. But in Victorian times, maybe closer to the light, I don't know, further from the light. But this is a clamp. It's a table clamp, and Victorian era type of ladies that were involved in embroidery and things like that would clamp these to the table in front of them. Obviously, this is a pin cushion. This is not a very good pin cushion because it takes a lot of pressure to actually get the pin in here. But primarily, the function of this thing, this bird part right here. Yeah, let me turn on the light. Maybe it's just a light direction thing. This bird part here is actually a clamp. You see that? And so what they would do is they would clamp this with the bird facing them, and then they would put whatever fabric they were working on in the bird's mouth, and that would hold it for them while they were working on it. I just think it's cool. I'd found some that were actually from the Victorian era, but they were all easily $200 or $300 at least. So this little 1980s knockoff version of the same thing was only like $40, so I got that instead. But I locked down both sides of the cardboard, the work surface, everything. It's not going anywhere at all. Let's see if I can do some of this. Can you hear the coffee brewing? I can. It's very nice. But here's my fake Victorian bird. Here's my my jeweler's vise. My workstation is set up. It's all clamped up to go. I actually have a little bit of a demonstration along with this too. But here in my, I still have to lean for it, but it's still not that great of a challenge. There's my drawer that you can't see because it's off screen. But that black toolbox maybe you saw in the earlier scans has all of my whetstones, Q-tips, cotton balls, basically cleaning and surface care type stuff, sharpening things, whatever. Oh yeah. Now that I've introed the bench vise, I actually have a whole bunch of smaller hand tools and files this way, so that I can actually make modifications and fabricate small pieces on some of these machines that I work on when I can't necessarily find a replacement part online. So this little file set here, and there's more of them, but this little file set here, definite must have in this shop. I fixed clocks, sewing machines, typewriters, all kinds of stuff with just this little jeweler's vise and those tiny little files over there. You can reshape metal, you can do whatever. But here's something I found recently. This is called a hand vise, okay? And what it is, I don't know if this obviously started out as something for holding smaller pieces, for cleaning or whatever. But you hold it in the hand, obviously, whatever, and then it grips. Like, say I want to use this brush to clean off these hinges, which I do because these hinges are for a mounted sewing machine that really needs to carry itself on to its new destiny. But instead of trying to hold the thing and the brush, which I can still do, especially because it's a hinge and it sits down inside my hand, so that's another adaptive thing. I can actually, you see how I'm holding this, I've got it folded, it's resting on, half of it's resting on the outside of the fingers, and the other half is just kind of tucked in. And that works pretty good. Maybe I could have picked a better example for the hand vise, or why I would need the hand vise, because this is actually working very well. But the problem with that is that this is a wire brush, and so you're scraping crud out of your hands, potentially causing pokes and scratches and everything else if you're not wearing the right kind of gloves or whatever. But this is fairly effective. Now, if I wanted to not scrape up my hands, what I could do is get the edge of this thing. This is kind of the way it's designed. You kind of have to be careful of, because it's this rounded bottom part here that sits into this channel, and that's how it keeps its trajectory, I guess. So it's kind of a fiddly thing, but it's handy for, what did I just recently use this on? I actually used this to modify a piece of plate for a sewing machine or something I was working on not too long ago. But let's see how to maximize the angle. Of course, because of how small everything is, I could also use the bench vise for this if I really wanted to, and I have on occasion. This may not be as adaptive, as much of an adaptation hack as I thought it was, but this is the joy of experimentation. Okay, so now that that's done, instead of holding onto the tiny little thing and exposing my hands to whatever, now I hold the handle of the hand vise and I can still even get all the way to this side, and I'm not doing anything destructive to my hands, other than possibly using them. But this lets me cap this kind of stuff, like this vise and the hand vise. These let me capitalize and maximize my two half a hands situation that I have going on. Because all through here, I still have fairly decent control and strength, like through this side of my wrist. That's why I say half a hands. You know, outside's not so much. here in the insides, I still have a decent bit of what's left of the wrist muscles and everything else, and I can still, that's why I still have pinch and all that. Should have worn a dust mask. Can't well, you can try to plan for everything, but actually think of everything in time is not always guaranteed. But so yeah, this nifty little thing here, hand vise, actually works pretty well. This would probably, I think, if you could get it cinched down far enough, this would actually be a pretty decent for like a quad cuff or something like that. Obviously, pairs aren't going to have too much problems with any of this at all, but in terms of the middle ground, if you have some kind of functionality of your hands or whatever, this is a tool like this, or even these clamp-on um, like vise and these holding things or whatever. These are all great tools to give yourself a little bit of an extra help when you need to do work that maybe your hands can't necessarily exactly support. So my coffee's done, and I think I've showed you just about everything that I can or would want to put into this video. So I don't know, Living and Active might turn into its own playlist and just be hacks, adaptations, and whatever. It might not, I don't know, but for the time being, uh, this is actual Living and Active video. That's probably going to be the title of this video. So remember, everything that you do, that you take for yourself or whatever, no matter what else drives you, without faith it is impossible to please God. This is Hebrews 11:6. So those who come to God must believe that He is, and that He's a rewarder of those who seek Him. And until next time, if there is a next time, and there might not be, as I always say, God be with you.